As somebody who all month long has been making horrible, morbid puns about the titles of all of his shows, I have a very soft spot in my heart for the Tales from the Crypt series. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
And this is our post-Shriek Out reaction for Tales from the Crypt Demon Night. We are still in the middle of Viewers' Choice Week, so this request came from Fabian G on Twitter. He won a couple of things, but one of them was Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, so I really wanted to check this out because I actually watched this maybe 10 years ago, and I remember loving it. But if there's anything that my nostalgia might have influenced and maybe didn't age all that well, it's probably something Tales of the Crypt related. So I want to go back and check and see if I still enjoy this. Plus, you had never seen this.
No.
So I figured, okay, this will be a good opportunity. Kind of like a lot of the movies that we've done so far this month. It's like, all right, I remember really liking this, but does it hold up? This whole month was kind of just a big experiment for that. And I gotta say, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time I saw it, but that's true for most movies out there. But yeah, I actually still really enjoyed this.
I liked it too.
Okay, good. Yay, that's the end of the show.
Alright.
So what this movie is about is that it focuses on this character who, he seems kind of suspicious at first, and he's being chased by this other guy who kind of looks like he might be like a Texas Ranger of sorts. I'm going to assume this is in Texas because everyone's wearing cowboy hats. But after they crash, the suspicious-looking guy ends up going to this hotel that used to be a church, which there's a line there that was like, yeah, people just lost interest in the church. And it's like, all right, that kind of sets up what this movie is. This kind of sets up, like, there's going to be some kind of, like, a crisis of faith, sort of like this whole, like, God and people's beliefs in him sort of theme going throughout it. So he goes to this hotel, and there's 7 other people there, and the Texas Ranger-looking guy ends up showing up with the cops, and he's trying to get this artifact from the suspicious guy. He says it's a key, but it really kind of just looks more like a vial. And there's definitely, like, blood inside. Like, it's real obvious it's blood inside this thing. And as they're sorting all this out, one of the cops goes, hey, we just got a report in. The guy who you say you are isn't real. He died years ago, so you got to come down to the station with us as well. And at that point...
Yeah, it's like he stole a car also.
Oh, yeah, he stole... That's what it was.
Yeah.
He stole a car.
Like, both the ranger guy and the suspicious guy both stole cars, so that's why...
That's what it was. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, but the guy who... The suspicious guy, the name he was using died years ago. Mm-hmm. I remember someone did that, so... but yeah, because both their cars were stolen, they're like, all right, both of you are coming down to the station with us. At which point, the ranger-looking guy just punches one of the cops' heads off and doesn't, like, knock his block off like it goes flying across the room, punches his hand through it, and this is Tales from the Crypt, so there's going to be like some dark comedy in there. That's one of the things that series was known for. I mean, the host of that series just opened every show with bad puns.
Yeah.
So there's like this long extended sequence of him just like shaking his hand trying to get the guy's head off, and like the body's still attached to it, so there's just this giant massive dummy they had to create to shove on this guy's hand so they could try and just wiggle it off. But they end up getting this guy, the ranger guy, out of there, and it's basically revealed that the item that this suspicious guy is carrying is this key, and there's 7 of them in the entire universe, which that's one thing that I enjoy about this, is that, as I said, it's in a church, there's demons involved in this thing, it's got like this Christianity is real, all that stuff in the Bible really exists element going on. However, they also come in here and go, yeah, but there's stuff going on other planets, angels and demons are all throughout the galaxy. I always kind of enjoy whenever someone takes, like, earthly religions and goes, yeah, but let's add a cosmic element to it. Let's add that little part to it. I always kind of dig when someone's willing to do that. That doesn't really play that much into this, but I kind of dug that one little scene in here where they did that. But he says that, yeah, when the universe was created, there were 7 keys that created. And if the demons get their hands on all 7, they return darkness to the universe. And this is the 7th key. It's the only one that they haven't gotten yet, and it was right here on Earth the whole time. So this key has been passed down from guardian to guardian ever since it was created. And it was even filled with, like, the blood of Jesus and, like, all the other people who have been guarding it. When they die and they have to pass it on to the next person, they fill it with their blood. So they have to basically prevent this demon from getting his hands on this final key, and they're able to like seal up the church to keep him and all the little demon spawns that he's able to birth out of the earth from breaking in there. And from there, it basically becomes this movie that's about them just trying to survive until daylight. And it's these 7 strangers in there. And I always enjoy movies like that. I always enjoy those movies where it's like, hey, we're a bunch of just unique characters trapped in a place. But this is very different from most of those films because there are demons involved. And one thing that I will say right off the bat is that Billy Zane is the demon in here. He may be my favorite demon I've ever seen in any movie. Like, he is...
Like, he's not just a demon. He's, like, one of the higher-ups. He's almost like Satan.
He's basically,
sort of.
like, I don't want to call him Satan, because there is a moment in here in which he says, boy, I tell you, this is going to get me that promotion that I've been eyeing for. So it's like, okay, so you're still not the top guy.
No, more like a Beelzebub or something like that.
He's one of them guys. He's one of the high rankers up there. But he has just got so much personality in here.
He does.
And the only real problem I have with this character is that he's not in here more. Like, my memory of this basically told me, oh yeah, he's the star of this whole thing. And watching it this time, I was like, I could have sworn he was in here like twice as much as he actually is, because he's just got that much personality to him. Like, I kind of instantly fell in love with this guy. When he first pops up, he's kind of flat. He's kind of basic.
Yeah, well, he's like playing a part.
He's playing a part, exactly. But I kept looking at it, I was like, oh man, am I going to be following this guy for an entire movie? But when he gets kicked out of the church, he takes his cowboy hat, throws off on the ground, and goes, goddamn hillbilly, son of a blah, 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 blah. And it's just like doing like this little like really bad impersonation of a southern accent, to like trying to like poke fun at the character he was trying to play. Like, fuck all this shit, I'm not doing that anymore. And from there, he just becomes a Looney Tunes character. There is a moment in which it looks like he has got what he wants. He is finally going to bring darkness to the galaxy. And then he gets shot in the head with an arrow. And he just turns around and is like, maybe not. And then he falls over. Just like perfectly, like he's barely even stunned by this. And still just shit-talking even when he's going down.
Like, it's more of like a minor inconvenience.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, come on. There's a moment in... Yeah, the minor inconvenience thing perfectly sums it up because they're able to seal up the church by spraying the blood on doorways, and then the blood will just, like, go around
Yeah, like a seal.
It basically creates, like, this invisible border that they can't go through. And then there's a moment after they get on the front door, and they look up, and he's just standing right there. It's like, come on, man, just give me the key. And, like, he tries to walk in, and he bumps into the invisible wall. I was like... Come on, man, you know I'm gonna get this. And I was just like, that is such a great attitude for the villain to have. That's like, you know I'm gonna win. Come on, why you gotta stretch this out, man?
Why you gotta make things so hard?
Why,
like...
come on. Yeah, I love that attitude to him. But there's also moments in here in which he's gotta play like 5 different personalities for this guy. Because there are also moments in which he has to like tempt all the people inside to try and get them to turn. And he's got to be like a different version of himself for every single one of these people. Like, Jada Pinkett, back before she was Jada Pinkett Smith, is one of our 2 protagonists. It's one of those films where the role of protagonist kind of switches between people. Because on the one hand, it's the stranger guy who's the guardian of this key, the keymaster, if you will. And he's the protagonist for a decent chunk of this, but as the movie goes along, he gets less and less to do, and Jada Pinkett starts to take over. But there's a moment in which Jada Pinkett ends up getting tempted by Billy Zane, and yeah, he's got to be like the smooth-talking, seductive guy. But then there's a moment in here in which I got to look this guy's name up, because he has been in 3 movies we have watched this month. He is like the MVP of THORGIWEEN this year. He was in Gremlins 2, and then he was also in Night of the Creeps, which I did with Vic on Tales from the Vic. But he plays this guy like Uncle Willie, I think his name is. And he has to get tempted, and his temptation is he just goes to a tiki bar with topless women everywhere, and Billy Zane has to play the guy at the bar.
Yeah.
And he is just something completely different in that moment. He's got like a cigar coming out of his mouth at all times, this big, thick sunglasses, like, here you go, Uncle Willie, try this shit. It'll get you all fucked up. So you can just tell he is having so much fun in this role. And anytime that you're watching an actor just have that much fun, you can't help but kind of get into it. Also, I'm looking up the score for this thing right now. Like, this has very low, not just critic score, but also audience scores. I don't get it. This feels like it should at least be a cult classic, if nothing else. It feels like it should at least have like that audience that just is really into this, and this just really spoke to them. The guy was Dick Miller. Yeah. Dick Miller has been in 3 movies so far we've watched this month. That's insane to me. But yeah, Billy Zane just absolutely stole this thing, and I really do wonder, would I have liked this as much if anybody else at all had been playing that character? Because I keep thinking about the other people in this movie, and there's the 7 survivors trapped in this location for the night, and I gotta say, I still really like them as well. Some of them, like, God, what's his name? Lloyd from Wings, the mechanic from Wings, the guy from Sideways, Thomas Hayden Church, Sandman. He's in here playing a character named Roach, and he is, he's the Judas of the group. He's the guy that's like, you know that if they get this, they'll bring eternal darkness to the world, right? And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to be in here. Like, there is a moment in which he betrays them for the demon. It's obvious that's going to happen. I don't even feel like
his name is Roach. Yeah. What were you expecting?
Either he's going to have the greatest redemption arc of any character ever, or he's going to do the exact thing you think he's going to do. But yeah, there's a moment in which he betrays the group to Billy Zane, which, man, I'm just thinking about that scene. It's another amazing Billy Zane moment, because Billy Zane can't get inside because of the blood on the ground, and he needs Thomas Hayden's Church to wipe it up. So he's just standing there like, blah. And he opens his mouth and a sponge like magically unfolds. Like, not like a CGI sponge they put in there. Like, no, Billy Zane actually ate a sponge in his mouth.
Shoved a sponge in his mouth.
Didn't just eat a sponge. He perfectly folded it in his mouth so that it would do that like, blah, like lay out like a tongue when he opened his mouth. Yeah, man, he can do physical comedy as well. Billy Zane was the perfect guy to get for this role. But yeah, there's the moment in which he betrays them, and I kept thinking about that scene. I'm like, did he even get anything on this? Did he even basically go like, all right, well, when you guys take over the universe, you're gonna like, I'm not gonna be affected, right? Like, I'm gonna be like, he said like something basically like, don't worry, you'll get reward for this.
Yeah.
But there's no even like details. No even like, here's my list of demands. If you're going to take over the universe, then I need A, B, and C in here. Like, no, he's just like, you know what? Fuck all these guys. I don't like. He just thinks that the guy who holds the key, who is the savior of mankind and the entire universe, is kind of a dick. So he's like, yeah, fuck that guy. And all of humanity at the same time. Like, yeah, so that guy, Thomas Hayden Church, doesn't really have a lot of sides to him. But the lady who was running the inn,
yeah,
I actually really dug her. There was a moment, CCH Pounder. There was a moment in which she... Okay, it's kind of a spoiler, so I'm not going to say it, but she has something happen to her. And it would be a very traumatic thing for anybody, but she's still kind of a badass throughout it. Yeah, there was a moment in which, like, after something horrible happens to her, she is just downing vodka to try and get there. I was like, all right, I can kind of get behind this character. But she gets, like, a big hero moment at the end of all of this. There's, like, the really stupid cop, played by Gary Farmer. He... At the same time, you know, he's very flat. He is very much the joke cop, but he steps up. Like, he is like the dumb deputy in here, like the, oh gosh, sure, I'm sorry to bother you tonight. And like, oh, deputy, did you forget to do this thing? Oh, I'm sorry. Like, he might as well just have been eating like donuts in every scene, because he just looks like that much of a cartoon cop. He looks like Chief Wiggum from The Simpsons almost. But he gets a big hero moment in here as well, and you see him actually really stepping up and like, actually becoming better as the movie goes along. He becomes a better cop as the movie goes along. Like, there's a moment here in which he can't do math, but then later on, you see him actually, like, thinking things through, and I was like, man, this character, like, they don't stop to, like, focus on his character progression, but I kind of admire that more, that it just kind of happens as everybody is progressing throughout this night. So yeah, I actually still really dug all the other characters in here. I don't think it was just Billy Zane that I was kind of falling in love with in this movie. Jada Pinkett also has a nice arc in here. She doesn't have as much personality as everyone else, but that's because she's supposed to be one of the protagonists. Like, protagonists rarely have as much personality as the side characters who are there to be like a thing. But yeah, she's kind of the rebellious one. She does not want to be working in this rundown hotel. She's got dreams of going elsewhere in the world. And then, as I said, it kind of like becomes more of her movie as it goes along. And I think that the progression through that actually really worked. I actually think that they kind of like slid into that pretty smoothly. Only person I didn't really like in here was the little kid.
Yeah, well, he had like such a small part.
But it's weird because he's in the very beginning of this movie. When the the Keymaster guy ends up going to this bar early on, or a gas station, I think.
Yeah, gas station.
And then this little kid just comes out there and is talking to him. And then later on, after he leaves that place and goes to another location, the little kid is now in the mines underneath the hotel. And it feels really lazy how they just kind of was like, well, he's just here now. And they explain like, oh, the demon came back to where we were before and he attacked us and I escaped into the mines. And it works. It's an explanation. I can buy it, but it still just kind of feels like they just had to stop the movie to go, oh, fuck, we forgot this kid's supposed to be in this film. Okay, we'll come up with the reason for them to be in here. But then, even after that, like, that kid, he's constantly reading Tales from the Crypt comics.
Yeah.
There's fucking demons, like, in your basement and outside your window. How the fuck are you just stopping and just casually like, oh, yeah, okay, just gonna read this Tales from the Crypt comic right now. Which there's a weird moment in here in which what's in the Tales from the Crypt comic is what's happening in real life.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of odd, but it's like...
That was one of those things in which I was wondering, like, okay, all the Tales from the Crypt things are supposed to be the Crypt Keeper telling you this story. Is this, like, the Crypt Keeper, like, making this up? Like, is this trying to say, like, hey, because the Crypt Keeper is telling you this story, this is the story he's telling you. It happens to be an issue of Tales from the Crypt. So it's like some really weird, like, meta, like, multi-layered version of storytelling.
Maybe,
or was it just the demon messing with him? Because the comic is what ends up possessing someone in this movie. So the comic actually is, like, an evil thing at one point in here. So it's like, okay, so it feels like the demon probably, like, made that comic, but how do you, like, slip that in underneath the door? I don't know. It was kind of an odd choice, in my opinion. I would have been way happier if they just didn't have the kid in there at all.
Yeah, same here.
I feel like he hurt the film. Plus, also, he kept saying, like, oh, 7 people is the magic number. And then after a couple of characters die, they add the kid in there. It's like, well, now it's not 7, now it's 8. So, how does... Fuck it. No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. All right. But yeah, as for the effects, they're one notch above what you would find on the Tales from the Crypt TV show. It feels like even though this was a made-for-the-screen, big-budget movie, wasn't that big of a budget. It feels like most of their money went
honestly,
into location.
it kind of feel more like a made-for-TV movie.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Except that a lot of made-for-TV movies, as we saw like just a few nights ago with Sometimes They Come Back, a lot of them will stop and remind you of what the plot is. Like, for the people who just got here after the commercial break, this one didn't do that. So it was definitely made for the screen. Mm-hmm. This really was just an hour-and-a-half long episode of Tales from the Crypt. That's all that this was. But it's a pretty good hour-and-a-half long episode of Tales from the Crypt. Just kind of feels like, yeah, if you were going to make this a movie, you could have, like, put a little bit more money into this thing.
Yeah, like, go all the way.
Yeah.
I guess, like, and I kind of felt like that's what hurt this movie for me. It's like, I get it. It's Tales from the Crypt, so you need the Crypt Keeper in the beginning, and the opening, and the closing, but it's like, I kind of feel like it, like, knocks it down a point, because, you know, there's supposed to be a movie, it's supposed to be a bit more epic.
I understand. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like, it kind of, like, makes it less serious and more silly. Like,
okay, I see what you're trying to say. Like, you think that the Crypt Keeper coming in here with a bunch of jokes at the beginning of this thing...
Yeah. Like, if they just had something in the beginning like, Tales from the Crypt presents, and then it goes into the movie or something like that.
Okay, I can see that. But to me, it's like, okay, if it's gonna be Tales from the Crypt, you need the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, that's true. It's like...
It would kind of be like if you made a Twilight Zone movie without Rod Serling. I know someone's gonna say they did make a Twilight Zone movie without Rod Serling. But they at least had, like, him come on as, like, a narrator. Like, they at least use, like, voice clips of him to kind of be like, hey, guys, you know Rod Serling and everything. But also, like, Twilight Zone, it's been hosted by other people. They've done reboots of it. They're doing another reboot. Like, Rod Serling isn't that necessary to Twilight Zone, but I feel like Crypt Keeper is necessary to Tales from the Crypt. If you didn't have Crypt Keeper in there, I feel like it would have to be an anthology, like the Creep Show movies. Because that's what the show was. It was an anthology. Every single episode was a different story in there. So if you're going to make a Tales from the Crypt movie, and it's not an anthology, it's all one thing, I feel like you still need the Crypt Keeper in there, but that's not me coming in here and saying it's like, well, you're wrong about this. I feel like it's just me kind of going like, hey man, I kind of needed that, but you could have done without it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's like really I think like the biggest split that we have on this film.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and give our reviewers. Is there anything else you want to cover?
I think I'm good.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to give this a 7.5. First time I saw this, I would have given it an 8. But yeah, you know, second time watching it, your enjoyment isn't as high. And I did need more Billy Zane in here. So I'm going down to 7.5. What about you?
Yeah, I'm doing 7.5 also.
Oh, really? Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, Crypt Keeper didn't hurt that much for you.
No.
I do actually really like Crypt Keeper, I will say.
Yeah, I do like him. It's
just, yeah, you want this movie to be a little bit more serious.
Yeah, because, like, that's usually what happens in a movie. Like, things are supposed to be taken more seriously than in a show.
Also, this is very weird because the Crypt Keeper is a puppet.
Yes.
He is entirely a puppet. But there's a moment here in which they need the Crypt Keeper to walk up to someone.
Yeah, so it's obviously someone in a costume.
It's obviously someone in a suit. It's the weirdest looking thing. It was so weird looking.
It always weirds me out whenever they have, like, puppets, but it's actually just someone in a suit, like, whenever, like, with Alf, and they just had to have him, like, run around and stuff, so it's
you mean, like, full body?
Yeah, full body.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I get the same way, like, whenever I used to watch the old Muppet movies, and they would do, like, the full shot of, like, Kermit walking around. Yeah. That would always weird me out. I was like, no, man! It doesn't look good. So, yeah, 7.5. Spoiler, actually there was some spoilery stuff in here. First up, I will say, the little kid does end up getting possessed, and that is the one salvation for that little kid, is that when he dies, it's kind of awesome. He gets kicked through a window that they just put, like, the protection seal around, and he blows up in the air as soon as he goes out the window. It was kind of awesome, but at the same time, he also had one of the worst costumes when he turns into a monster, because he was just a flat-out puppet there. But he was like a puppet with like the human head that they try to make, but still like the big old like venom mouth coming out with a giant slobbery tongue wagging around. Oh, it did not look that good. But basically the reason why Jada Pinkett Smith ends up becoming a much larger character in here is that the Keymaster guy ends up revealing, yeah, I have this tattoo on my hand of 7 stars. When the 7 stars all form into a circle, it means it's the destined night. And on the destined night, I will find myself in a room of 7 people, and at the end of the night, whichever one of us is the last one left alive becomes the new Keymaster, and I have to transfer it over to you, and you have to then guard the key. So he ends up transferring over to Jada Pinkett Smith, because she's the last one still alive at the end of this. And Billy Zane at that point comes in and wants to, like, romance her, and that leads to how she's able to, like, burn him and set him on fire with the blood. But it was so bizarre to me that is like, why does he suddenly like have the hots for Jada Pinkett Smith? Or just Jada Pinkett, I should say. Because that wasn't like a thing that he was like well, I guess when he was tempting her earlier.
Yeah, like, but like he wasn't really romantically tempting her. Like he was romantically tempting the another woman in there.
That's
like,
true. He was, yes.
Yeah, like basically he was just trying to find their weaknesses and exploit them. Like, you know, that one girl, she wanted to be loved. Jada Pinkett, her character wanted to like travel the world. Yeah. And like, you know, Uncle Willie just wanted tits and booze.
He just wanted to drink. Yeah, so I get like he was tempting her with that, but yeah, I guess he was also semi-hitting on her. Like there's a moment when he does come behind her, is like holding her and stuff, so
yeah, sort of, but like
there was something, but yeah, it still feels kind of outplaced to me. It still kind of feels like, man, I was really loving this character, and at the end you just kind of make me like, I want you to be my bride. And it's like, that doesn't.
Although
I kind of like all the other sides to you earlier in this film. They were much more fun.
Although I guess, you know, being like the devil or one of the devils, that's kind of like something that they do.
The devil can do many different evil things all in one night. So it's not like it's not fitting for him. I just enjoyed the other sides to him earlier in this film. But yeah, at the end of this, she ends up boarding a bus to basically go out there and explore the world. So in a weird way, she gets what she wants.
Yeah.
Just not quite the way she wanted it. I do also enjoy that she still had the cat with her at the end of this. So,
I like to think that her cat is like will sense demons or something like.
Yeah, that would actually kind of be a cool thing to throw in there.
Yeah, I actually kind of want like a sequel to just to see how Jada Pinkett's character like does and everything, but it's like
we've actually talked about this many times this month, especially me and Vic. If you haven't checked out our Tales from the Vic series, but we've talked about how there are many horror films out there that yeah, maybe don't deserve a sequel, but there's so many comic book companies out there that just buy up whatever, like, cheesy B horror film that they can get their hands on and do a sequel to it. This would actually fit perfectly for them. They even introduce a brand new devil at the end of this who's hunting her down.
Yeah, like, I wasn't sure if it was just, like, the same devil but, like, reincarnated in a different person, or if it was a different devil.
No, I think he full-on blows up at the end of this. Like, I think
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I think it is a new person hunting her down.
A new devil.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I really do like this. It's just, I enjoyed it more the first time around, but Billy Zane is so damn fun as the devil in here. I actually really enjoy all the characters that are stuck in this place. Effects aren't all that great, and, you know, some of these characters like Roach, they're just way too flat for me to really get any enjoyment out of them. But still, there's a lot in here to enjoy, so I would give this 7.5 still.
Yeah.
All right, that is it. We've got, how many more of these to do? 4 more viewer requests to do? I've got them all pretty much planned out, so sorry if you haven't submitted a request yet to us, everybody. But yeah, make sure that you tune in for the rest of this week. And as always, happy Halloween.
Bye.
I sure got out with some bad pun, damn it. Hold on, I can think of one. Happy Hallow Scream. You can't do a ghoulish pun on Halloween. Bye.